Hello everyone, good day and welcome to today's Auto Spotlight session hosted by the Vermont Book Club. We are truly glad to have you all here with us. Whether you are joining for the first time or returning, we appreciate your time and presence. Today, today's session is focused on a book that speaks to real life in a very honest and simple way. Paradox, Living Between Opposites by Joseph Anand. This book looks at something many of us experience every day, but may not always understand clearly. It shows that life is not always about choosing one side or finding quick answers. Sometimes, two opposite things can exist at the same time. For example, growth can feel uncomfortable. Success can come after all failure. Clarity can come after confusion. And sometimes, the things we try to avoid at the same time that help us move forward. The book does not try to give us a quick solution. Instead, it helps us slow down, think differently, and understand life in a deeper but simple way. This is what makes today's section important. It's not just about the book, but about how we can apply those ideas to our daily life. We'll be having a calm, engaging discussion where we talk about the ideas behind the book, the author's journey, and also hear from our audience. So, without taking too much time, it's my pleasure to welcome the author of Paradox, Living Between Opposites, Joseph Arnott. You are very welcome.
Hi, greetings everyone. Can you all hear me?
We are honored to have you here, Joseph.
Uh, is the audio clear?
Yes, very, very clear. And the
Okay.
audience are with you.
Okay. Greetings
So,
everyone.
before we begin, Joseph, at this point, we'd like you to take a few minutes to introduce yourself to our audience. Please share your journey as a writer and what inspired you to write this book.
Absolutely, sure. First of all, I would like to thank for the opportunity from Vermont Book Club. I truly appreciate the invitation to be part of the space that is so intentionally created for reflection, depth, and meaningful dialogue. I was particularly struck by a philosophy that life is not a problem to be solved, but a tension to be lived. That is exactly what I'm talking about in my book. A bit of introduction about myself. My name is Joseph Anand. I'm from Singapore. Uh, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Singapore. I've been there. And right now I'm based in Dubai. I'm an engineer by qualification and also have an MBA and master's in positive psychology and coaching psychology and a PhD in coaching psychology. I have 4 decades of work experience, so most of them in oil and gas sector, and especially in project management. My work life involved solving project management problems. I'm trained and wired to think in binary terms. Yes, no, cause and effect. Very comfortable with logical steps leading to problem solving. It changed drastically about 15 years ago. I moved from left brain to right brain thinking and now an integrated thinking. I would say around 15 years ago, I got interested in the human side of things, not just technology and manufacturing and oil and gas exploration, uh, more of why we behave in certain way, what motivates us. Mainly because of the influence of my late wife as positive psychology practitioner, I got interested in positive psychology as a topic which was new to me at that time. And generally, as a human psychology, the interest became passion and led to academic pursuit and research and a direction towards emotional intelligence. And that topic stuck with me. And now it is not just a personal knowledge alone, but has become my passion and life purpose to reach out to as many people as possible, to make them aware, to be interested in emotional intelligence, generally in development of hidden human faculty to experience life and manifest the better version of themselves. That's a bit of my background.
Thank you for that introduction, Joseph. So now let's go deeper into your book. So I have a few questions here to ask you, Joseph, if you don't mind.
Sure. Maybe before we jump into paradoxes, maybe I can share a bit about my journey to becoming an author, if that is okay.
Y- Yes, that is very okay. You can share it also. It's very, very important.
Okay. This burning desire of reaching out to people, sharing my knowledge, especially on emotional intelligence, led me to uh, leading certain awareness sessions wherever I travel to as part of my work, or I meet new people. I try and get a session organized to share my experiences and thoughts about emotional intelligence, mainly to create some awareness of what it is all about. Surprisingly, many of them have heard it for the first time. That turned into a passion of reaching out to more people. This awareness sessions are available on YouTube. Then I thought about why not write something about emotional intelligence and combine that with project management, as project management being my background. I started writing the first book called The EQ Advantage in the AI Era, Mastering Project Leadership Through Emotional Intelligence. That's the first book I started writing. And that publication took a bit of a time. And in the meanwhile, I thought of reaching out to people on another important topic uh, due to experiences in meetings, in people's conversation, in both professional life and personal life. I realized a lot of us actually listen to respond, not listen to understand. How many of us have actually experienced people not letting someone finish what they want to say and we want to respond? So I said, okay, it's so important for a conversation to be fruitful, we must pause. So I started writing about pause. Then I said, pause for what? On purpose, for understanding, for relationship. And that led to next book and next book. That is how I became an author. A bit of reflection here. There was a time in my life when everything on the outside looked fine. A good career, loving family, excellent friends. Everything went on autopilot. But inside there was a quiet restlessness, not broken, not dramatic, just incomplete. That question was the beginning of a deeper inquiry. This was not born out of crisis, but out of incompleteness. The question I remember asking myself, is this what truly means to live well as a human being? It became the beginning of an even more deeper inquiry into life. And life, has a way of teaching us what we are not ready to learn. Through moments of uncertainty, through loss, through reflection, I began to see clearly that the real challenge of life is not managing what is outside, it is the understanding what is within, understanding our inner world. And yet, paradoxically, this is the one domain for which we receive the least structured guidance. We are taught how to succeed, how to compete, how to achieve, but we are not taught how to respond to pressure, how to deal with uncertainty, how to navigate relationships, how to find meaning beyond achievement. And that is where the direction of my journey became even more clearer. One that led me deeper into emotional intelligence, psychology, awareness, and ultimately into the structure of human experience itself. The P series, 11 books, some of you might have watched the video of the book launch in Singapore. There are 11 books in the series, each one simple in its expression but profound in its intention. Each book stands on its own, addressing a specific dimension of life, and yet together they form a roadmap, the pathway for human development. It begins with pause. That's what I started writing about. Because without pause, there is no awareness. From that pause, we move into presence. How many of us are actually present where we are? How many of us zoom out from where we are? Learning to be truly be where we are is presence. From presence emerges positivity, not as forced optimism, but as a conscious orientation. We then explore perception, how we see shapes what we experience. And then the paradoxes, the topic we are going to talk about today. Understanding that life is not always linear, but often contradictory. From then, I expand into perspective, the ability to step back and see the larger picture, and then to pain, not as something to avoid, but something to understand. Alongside pain, I explore pleasure, not as an indulgence, but as balance. Then we arrive at purpose, not as something external to chase, but something internal to discover. And ultimately, peace, not as an absence of challenges, but as a state of alignment within them. All of this culminates in the final expression. I call it life, capital LIFE. It's an acronym, living intentionally for excellence, manifesting the best version of ourselves. These books are not theories, they are reflections of lived experience, questions I've asked, moments I've struggled through, lessons life has quietly taught me. And there it goes, 11 books. I call it P series. Hope you find them interesting, thought provoking, and useful.
Thank you so much, Joseph. That was really inspiring. So we will now dive into the questions where we go deeper into your book.
Okay.
So I have a few questions here. So my first question says, why do people think discomfort means something is wrong, even when they are growing?
That's a good question. That is the first paradox I address in my book, growth through discomfort. It's natural, it's human nature to feel comfortable, not to explore something that is new, explore something that doesn't feel at ease. But the paradox is we all want to grow, but we don't want to feel uncomfortable. Growth asks us to step into the unknown. Unknown is always perceived due to our nature, the way we have evolved. Unknown is something that is considered uh, dangerous, considered something that is not going to help us. Discomfort triggers fear, doubt, and resistance. So you want to progress, but you avoid the very experience that creates it. But discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It signals that something is changing. Growth and discomfort are not opposite, they are partners. When you feel discomfort, pause and ask, is this pain or is this growth? If it is growth, lean in, even slightly. That tilts the balance.
Oh, thank you, thank you. So my second question here for you says, how can failure help someone move forward instead of stopping them?
Could you repeat that again, please?
Yeah, I repeat. How can failure help someone move forward instead of stopping them?
I think one important thing when we are faced with this kind of situation, let me try and illustrate. Sometimes we tend to confuse paradoxes with problems. Problems are something that can be solved. You have an issue, you look at the root cause, you look at how to mitigate them. End of the day, you might find a way to solve the problem and it goes away. But paradoxes are not like that. Both sides of the polar are true. in certain circumstances. For example, as you said, the first paradox is why growth feels uncomfortable, why there is discomfort to growth. There are several paradoxes in common life, daily life we experience. Let me illustrate with few examples. Paradox of choice. I'm sure most of you have experienced. If we have more choices, making a decision becomes very difficult. An abundance of choices often leads to lower satisfaction, decision paralysis, and unhappiness. You want choices, yet you don't want too many. That's a paradox. Productivity paradox. To make something appear effortless, especially in sports or learning an instrument, musical instrument to play, you might look at a master or an experienced and athlete or a sports person. It will look so easy to actually play the instrument. It will look so effortless, but underneath the thousands of hours of efforts people have put in, that is not visible. So that is the productivity paradox. The wisdom paradox, even Albert Einstein mentioned, the more you learn, the more you realize how little you know. And you all know about the catch 22, the phrase called catch 22. The rules of the game are so you will never be able to win. There are many, many examples like that. Another important one is the social media paradox. More connectedness makes us feel less connected to those right in front of us. Another paradox, this probably many of you have experienced. It's about finances. You cannot get a loan without a credit history, but you cannot get or build a credit history without first obtaining a loan. There are many, many paradoxes, but we think they're all. The key here is learn to live with them and find the balance, and the tension goes away.
That was amazing. So my third question here for you, Joseph, says many people try to avoid fear. How can fear actually guide someone in life?
It's all about asking the questions. First is recognizing the challenges that is in front of you, asking the right questions, and being open minded. And not try to solve a problem, learn to live with it. Let me ask a question here to the audience. Which paradox do you experience more? Have you experienced any paradoxes in your daily life? Maybe you can unmute or put it on the chat box.
Yes. Can you type it on the chat box so they will answer it directly? Or should I help you to type it on the chat box?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Repeat the question.
The question is to all the audience, which paradox have you experienced in your daily life? Choice paradox. That's an excellent one. We experience this almost every day. We want choices, but yet we don't want too many choices anymore.
Yeah, let's wait a little bit. I think the audience are thinking about something to answer your questions.
Okay, let me continue. Yeah. Paradox is something that seems opposite or contradictory, but both sides are true. I have addressed in my book. Please go through my book, and I'm available through my social media channel if you have any clarifications. If you really look at the 20 different paradoxes I've discussed in my book, first I would recommend you read the principles that we keep missing. Take your time to really understand what the paradox is all about. Let me take a few moments to pick certain paragraphs in my book. We believe that if we work hard enough, think clearly enough, make the right choices, tension will eventually disappear. This is the common wisdom we have. And that growth will feel smooth, that clarity will replace confusion, that success will arrive without instability. We assume life is something that can be figured out and then managed. And yet, lived experience keeps telling us a different story. Growth often feels uncomfortable. Success is frequently preceded by failure. Clarity tends to emerge only after long periods of uncertainty. Connection deepens when we allow space rather than constant closeness. These are not glitches in the system. They are signals that life operates according to a different logic than the one we are taught to expect. Many of the outcomes we seek are shaped by their opposite. We resist discomfort, yet growth depends on it. We avoid failure, yet success is construed from it. How many times have we heard successful people saying, I've failed 100 times before the first success? We seek certainty, yet wisdom deepens through not knowing. We chase connection, yet intimacy often requires solitude. The problem is not that these paradoxes exist. The problem is that we treat them as problems. Modern culture offers endless strategies for avoiding discomfort and eliminating uncertainty. We are encouraged to optimize, simplify, and control, to resolve tension quickly and move on. But when paradox is treated as an error, we begin to fight experiences that cannot be eliminated. We interrupt difficulty as failure. We abandon growth prematurely, and we exhaust ourselves trying to fix what was never broken. Paradoxes, the book I've written, it reframes struggle not as a sign of inadequacy, but as natural feature of meaningful change. It shifts the focus from control to understanding, from resolution to orientation. This is not a book of techniques or formulas. It does not promise mastery over uncertainty or freedom from tension. Instead, it offers a way of seeing, one that helps you recognize when resistance is creating unnecessary friction and when the very experience you are trying to avoid is actually shaping the life you want. There are 20 paradoxes I've addressed. There are many more. The favorite ones are the first, which I have already talked about, growth through discomfort, and the last one, the paradox number 20. Have anybody read that book, Paradox number 20? Let me elaborate.
Is that the part of your book also?
Yes, the paradox
Okay.
20 is I want to live fully, but I avoid thinking about end. We rarely think about death. It feels morbid, heavy, or unnecessary, something to be postponed. The tension is we seek life, growth, and continuity. But awareness of mortality feels uncomfortable, even unsettling. So we push it away while unknowingly losing the urgency and clarity begins. It is the awareness of the end that gives meaning to the present. Mortality is not a threat to life, it is what makes life precious, intentional, and real. What is a tool? Ask yourself, if today truly matters, what would I do?
Um, So, Joseph, I would likely to let us continue our questions here for you because the audience are waiting for me to ask the questions. Then the audience will ask their questions also.
Okay?
So, my first question here for you says, why does clarity come after confusion instead of before it?
Could you type that question in the chat box, please? And I will answer. There's another question, paradox of being passive and being active. That itself is a paradox. There is a general belief that if you take time or take a pause before you respond or take a pause to think, people think that it is being indecisive, it's being passive. But actually, end of the day, you're actively thinking about the paradox and how to balance what is true in that moment, not what is true in all the circumstances in that particular circumstance. There is another question about certainty and curiosity. The basic principle of paradoxes is there is no certainty. Both ends of the paradox is certain for certain situations. But curiosity is something that helps you live with the tension of both ends of the paradox being true. Ask the question, is this helping me to grow or is it shrinking my growth? That will bring clarity into certainty.
So I asked my questions. You haven't answered it yet. Should I repeat?
Uh, if you could type it, that's even better.
Okay, I will type it.
Okay, why does clarity come after confusion instead of before it? That's a very good question. If you look at my book, uh, this is paradox number 8, clarity born from confusion. I'm not sure how many of you have read it. Let me go to that. We often assume clarity is something we should arrive at. When faced with decision or transition, we feel pressure to know what we want, where we are going, and why. Confusion is treated as a temporary failure and inconvenience to be resolved quickly so that forward movement can resume. The misunderstanding of confusion is it feels uncomfortable. Many a times we call it brainstorming, right? So lots of ideas, lots of inputs come in, and chaos and confusion because it disrupts orientation. You have a certain orientation, someone else has other orientation. It removes a sense of direction that allows us to move confidently. That is where the confusion comes. And we rush to escape confusion by quickly deciding on something that may not be actually the real solution or the real answer to the confusion. But confusion is necessary. It signals that reality has outgrown our existing categories. Something new is forming, but it has not yet taken shape. It's all evolving in the chaos. Confusion is not a breakdown, it's a transition. Clarity requires integration. All this confusing ideas, confusing thoughts, something emerges. Confusion holds this interaction open long enough for something more accurate to appear. The challenge here is when there is confusion, we tend to walk away or tend to not make a decision because it's confusing. My answer is give some time. The clarity will emerge. Next question I see is from James John. How do I handle failure without feeling bad? That's an excellent question. One of the main reasons we feel bad when we fail at something is because we attach ourselves to whatever we are doing. The identity, myself, is attached. I have failed. Not what I did not result in success. That's one important differentiation will make the shift in the feeling. It is not you have failed, it's the method, the process, the things you did failed. It's not you who failed. One of the important thing is disassociate yourselves from what you did or the failure. That itself will bring better feeling. Yes, this didn't work, something else will work. Let's look for it. Hope that answers the question. How can I stay calm when things are not clear? There are a couple of different topics in this question. Staying calm in adversity, staying calm in moments of despair, or where there are challenging situations, I would link that to emotional intelligence. Most of my writings in the 11 books and the other books I've written, the foundation is emotional intelligence. It's a topic by itself. Let me quickly illustrate. Why some people stay calm under pressure is because they are aware that situation is fleeting. That means it's not end of the world. It is not that you are failing. It's about the situation you are facing. Maybe you're not geared up to face the situation. Maybe you're not prepared enough to face the situation. That's why stress comes. That is why chaos happens. People with emotional intelligence, they're able to discern through self-awareness, through practices of dissociating with themselves from the action and their soul and their present. That is one way of looking at it. In high pressure leadership roles, which P do you believe makes the biggest difference in decision making and why? In high pressure leadership roles, I would say the first book, Pause on Purpose. In leadership roles, it is perceived as quick response, or in fact, reaction is seen as being decisive, seen as being authoritative. But many a times, when you look back on certain decisions you have made without processing the options you have or the situation, many a times you would realize that I should have given it a bit more thought. So I would say of all the 20, the first one is more relevant for high pressure leadership roles. Why do people always want quick answers instead of taking their time? My answer to that is we are so attuned to digital technology, instant gratification, instant response, instant alerts to be responded immediately. In one of my books, I've included, it's in the first book, Pause on Purpose. It's one of the appendix. You can check yourselves whether you are digitally addicted and how do you really detoxify yourselves from the digital device addiction. I'm not saying that it is wrong. I'm not saying that it should be avoided, but it should be managed. What is one habit you recommend? If you are looking at becoming used to being calm, composed, being able to experience life, being able to respond, not react, create pausing. It can take just few seconds, depending on the situation. Pause is a habit all of us need to learn. How do you handle emotions when facing unexpected personal challenges that may impact your work? Very good question. We tend to think our personal life is different from professional life. It is not. Both of them influence each other because we are beings, we are human beings, but we are emotional beings. We tend to think that we are all logical beings, but we are not. We are emotional beings experiencing this world through our senses. So, emotional intelligence is one of the key skills which can be learned, that is important to be able to discern what is real danger and what is not. We don't face a predator in our modern life, but the evolutionary baggage still tells our brain, the senses sense a signal, there is fear, there is danger. The brain pumps the hormones into the system to react like it did to the forefathers when they're hunter gatherers. So it's an evolutionary baggage. So one of the important things we could learn from emotional intelligence is being self-aware. What triggers me? The emotional makeup when I'm going to work. For example, you're stuck in traffic. It irritates you. It changes your mood. But awareness will bring some clarity that this is temporary. Why I let a situation that is beyond my control to affect my emotion. That awareness will bring the shift. Let us look at other questions. What should I focus on when life feels confusing? First, I would recommend accepting the fact life is not linear. The issues we face, there are no binary answers, yes or no. We tend to confuse problems with paradoxes. Paradoxes, the tension between the opposites, are to be lived and experienced. The questions we need to ask is, where am I in this paradox? Am I leaning towards something that helps me to grow, or am I leaning towards something that is shrinking me? And it can change depending on the situation and circumstances in life. And that would give clarity. What is one simple change someone can make after reading your book? There are many things that can be done, but very simple shift in understanding that not all problems are to be solved. There are paradoxes to be lived. And pausing to give some few seconds to few minutes for your logical brain to discern. All the skills we need, we have. We sometimes do not access our ability to discern. I would say pause, whether it is a chaotic situation, decision making, or even experiencing this life. How many of us are running after things? We don't pause to even enjoy the beauty of life, enjoy the food we are consuming, enjoy the conversations we have, value the relationships we have. So I would say pause is one habit we should all learn.
Thank you so much for those thoughtful insights. That was really powerful. We will now move into the audience questions. We are now opening the floor for the audience segment to ask their questions. So I would like you to check the audience chat box for more questions about your book.
How do I stop comparing myself to others? In in our modern life, I would say is to a large extent social media that has made us compare. We are connected yet disconnected. One of the important thing in emotional intelligence is about self-awareness and self-respect. Being empathetic towards yourself. Empathy is important. Feel the feelings of others. I would say don't beat up yourselves. Recognize that you are unique. You are someone that cannot be duplicated. You have certain special qualities. You have something to give, and that would make the change. You have created some, okay, why do I always want quick results? I think we are conditioned to a large extent by the digital world, the instant gratification. It's an addiction, I would say. First thing probably I would recommend is do some digital detox. Not complete. I'm not against technology. Technology has brought about people together. It's done marvels. But technology should serve us, not we serve technology. Even I sometimes uh, get addicted looking at the alerts from my phone, quickly want to respond, and expecting people to respond. I would say first we should detox ourselves from digital devices. That will change our mindset to giving some time for results. As the author, what do you want your readers to take away from your book? Specific to this book, Paradoxes, one simple thing is there are paradoxes in our lives. Let's test something you're facing is a problem or paradox. And if it is a paradox, learn to live with the tension. Depending on the situation, you lean towards one end or the other. How do I know I'm growing? That's an excellent question. When something is very easy, effortless, smooth, most probably you're not growing. Growth always precedes with discomfort, confusion, pain. If something is successful, probably it's being repeated. You're not expanding your capacity, you're not exploring new things. Growth always precedes discomfort, confusion, pain. So if you're feeling effortless in whatever you're doing, maybe you've mastered it, but you need to continue to practice. You need to continue to look for improvement. Then the discomfort comes in. That's when you start growing again. Can this book help in relationships? Absolutely. How many of us, one simple thing that can change relationship is communication. How many of us actually listen? In one of my books, the EQ Advantage books, I'm not sure whether I've covered in this P series, there is a separate chapter for active listening, especially in relationships, in personal relationships, between partners. How many of us actually listen to understand? Not many. That is the first step in relationships, as communication is the key. How can I think less and act more? Wonderful question. This is one of the paradoxes I've addressed in the book. You must have heard the phrase less is more. Also, you must have experienced minimalistic versus maximalistic approach. There is one in the book I've addressed. Let me see which one. No, I have not addressed it. Okay. Uh, it is a good question. When you see that there are too many things, even in our homes, when we have too many things, it feels like a clutter. So when I say less is more, less gives more output. It can also be linked to the productivity paradox. Productivity paradox is more you do, the more efforts you put in, the productivity drops. We have seen in practical experience. Like, for example, you work 4 hours or 8 hours. If you want to force yourselves to work 10 hours, I bet the productivity of 10 hours on an average will be much lesser than if you really focus and give your best in a shorter period of time. I can also link the less is more using the productivity paradox, which I have addressed in the book. Your storytelling, okay. Any other questions? Let me see. Let me see if there are any other questions. Can this idea help in business or work? Absolutely, yes. Let me give you some examples on business. I can talk about a paradox. We call it the autonomy paradox. I think we must have faced all of you. Leaders must give employees the freedom to work independently, that means autonomously, while simultaneously maintaining enough oversight to ensure quality and alignment. This is a paradox. You want to give freedom, yet you want an oversight and control. So it depends on where you actually lean into. Sometimes you have to lean on one side, sometimes you have to lean on another side. The innovation and efficiency paradox. Companies must be efficient enough to maximize current profits, but flexible enough to experiment with the new, potentially disruptive ideas for the future. Most of the innovation comes with disrupts the industry, disrupts everything. For the innovation to happen, you should move away from what you're already succeeding in. So this paradox is innovation versus efficiency. Feedback paradox, that's another one in business and work. Employees often want authentic, honest feedback to grow. Yet being too authentic, we have seen, in a professional setting can sometimes put their psychological safety or job security at risk. Perfection pitfall is another one. There is no such thing in this world as perfect. I can bet anything someone sees this as perfect, I can find some imperfection. Even the human body, it's perfectly imperfect. That's what makes human body beautiful. And the other one in work is multitasking myth. Attempting to do multiple high focus tasks at once actually reduces overall productivity. Switching between tasks can drop efficiency up to 40%. The other one is rest to produce paradox. Taking strategic breaks between 90 to 120-minute cycle is actually not wasted time. It recharges the brain's executive center, allowing for better decision making and creativity when you return. Most of the creative people, if you compare with people who are always doing stuff, you tend to see them a bit lazy. They're not lazy, they are bored and they create things out of boredom.
Thank you, Joseph. We are now done taking the audience questions. So, I would like to ask one more question here for you, and the audience will like to know more about it. So, the question is, do you have any YouTube channel or any online platform where readers can learn more about your book?
I have a YouTube channel. I'm working on my own website where I will post my thoughts and share tips. And I'm also planning to do some podcasts or sessions like this where people, audience who have read the books, have got questions. I will be available to answer, interact. And right now, my social media is through LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. But my own website is under construction. It will come out soon.
Okay, thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us today. And thank you to everyone who joined and stayed with us. We truly appreciate your time and we look forward to seeing you at our next Vermont Book Club section. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you very much for listening. Maybe I will leave with the final thought. You will not resolve the tension of your life, but you can learn to live with them well. And in doing so, you discover meaning does not come from final answers, but from how you stand in the space where opposites meet. Thank you very much.